welcome to the Blood Brothers podcast. I'm your host, Eric Metz. Are you seeking adventure? A life that is fulfilling and exciting? A life that is meaningful and significant? If you're like us, I'm sure you are. But in this episode, we want to discuss this lifelong adventure that God is calling every man to live. So, to answer these questions and to share more about this adventure, we would like to introduce you to the founder and president of Blood Brothers, Ben Steiger. Welcome back to the show, Ben.
Hey, Eric, thanks for having me. And thank you guys for joining us. Excited to dig in a little more this morning. And I'm certain that anybody listening will walk away encouraged, challenged, and better equipped for today.
That's the goal anyway, right? So, all right, let's kick off with the first question, Ben. In the Blood Brother vision, you mentioned that every man is called to embrace the lifelong adventure of loving God completely, heart, soul, mind, and strength. Could you explain how loving God in this way is a lifelong adventure?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I want to go back to last week's episode or the first episode where we shared about the formation of Blood Brothers and where that came from. But it really comes from helping men to love God with everything that they have. That I can't help take part in all of a man's problems. Whether it's a marriage issue, whether it's pornography issues, whether it's work issues, this, that, and the other. I can't get into each one of those subjects, or we can't as a ministry. But something that God made very clear to us early on was, hey, Ben, I don't want you to worry about tackling all those issues. Because if you can just help men do this one simple thing, everything else will fall into place. And, it was kind of a conversation that the father and I were having. I was out on a tractor one day, and I was just reminded of the first and the greatest commandment, something that had not been something that was really significant in my life, ever taught to me in a significant way. Although I had heard it, I couldn't quote it. And in that moment, the father just said, man, Ben, if you can just help men to love me with everything that they have, heart, mind, soul, and strength, and then to love others, everything else will fall into place. And that comes from the first and greatest commandment. When Jesus was surrounded by a group of dudes, and one of the guys said, hey, teacher, what is the most important thing that I as a Christian can do? And Jesus' response to them was, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your mind, all your soul and strength. And then love your neighbor as yourself is the second. And, so from that moment on, that's kind of how we worked this challenge, and how a man's life is driven by this desire for more. And it stems all the way back, to the moment of creation. Eric, you've heard me talk about this many times, but I like to share going back to the book of Genesis, when God created the heavens and the earth and the water and the sky, the land and the vegetation on it, the birds of the sea, or how about that? The birds of the sea, the birds of the air, and the fish of the sea, and the animals that roamed the land. And when he was done creating what we call the outdoors, he scooped up dust from the ground. He formed it in the shape of a man and breathed into his nostrils a divine breath. And in doing so, imprinted on man's soul an unshakable desire to be reunited with the Father. And so, that's where this longing and this desire for more comes from, this longing for adventure, this longing to be fulfilled. Stems from. So when we talk about the lifelong adventure of loving God completely, really, I fully believe that it all wraps around, how God created us and how he imprinted on each of our soul to be reconnected to him. And all of man's pursuits are an attempt to fulfill that desire to be reconnected.
Yeah, that's great. I love how the Father switched your focus from the problems to the solution of just focus on him and loving him completely. And it's like, we don't have to get distracted with all these other things and conflict and problems and issues and try to okay, how am I going to solve that? How am I going to solve that? It's just fix your eyes on the Father, and those things will take care of themselves. And I love that solution. It kind of leads into our next question here is, is loving God in this way is simple, but extremely challenging. So, what obstacles do we face, today as men? And in addition to just fixing our eyes on the Father, what solutions have you found to work in your life?
Yeah, yeah. Eric, I was thinking about some scriptures that I had written down, and to kind of come along with that. One is John 10:10. The thief comes only to destroy and kill. I have come, Jesus, that they may have life and have it to the full. And then there's a quote by Thoreau. It says, most men lead lives of quiet desperation and go to the grave with their song still in them. And that's a sad reality of what we face today is that so many men have no idea what their purpose is and have no idea how to find that purpose and to walk in that purpose. And man, this Blood Brothers community and this tool has been a neat asset to help men come alive and to step into their purpose. I'm getting off track. What? Ask me again the specific
Yeah,
question so I make sure I dive into that. But
it's good. Yeah. Yep. Just the obstacles that we face today. And what are some things that you do personally to help
yeah,
overcome some of those
yeah,
obstacles and struggles that we have to
yeah.
loving God
Yeah. And
completely?
so, one of the greatest ways that the enemy comes and just steals from us is distraction and drawing our focus away from where it really should be. We live in the craziest, busiest, most distracting times ever. And if we don't have
Yeah,
just a honed
for sure.
focus
For sure.
on the things that matter most, and for me, that's loving God completely, where my focus is just on Him and give me more of Him. That man, so easily I will be just tossed to and fro by the waves of this world, and I'll start using that word. I'm busy. Every dude you ask, how you doing, man? I'm busy. I'm busy. I'm busy. And I have grown to
Yeah,
hate that
so
word
true.
for myself, and oftentimes it hurts to hear from other men because I find that when I am busy, I'm not living on purpose. I'm doing what I have to react to
Yeah,
instead of what I'm being proactive in. And so when I live on purpose, I'm not saying that I'm busy because every choice I make is based
mm,
off of, all right, how do I love God completely in and through this moment, this day, this time? And it doesn't mean that things don't get altered or changed. And it doesn't mean that life isn't full.
yeah,
But for me, I don't like to use that word busy. And so
yeah,
busyness and distraction, I think, are two of the greatest things that the enemy is using to draw us away from walking in
for
our
sure.
purpose.
Yeah, yep. So tough. So how do you prevent yourself from being distracted? What are some things that you do in your
Yeah.
life from preventing yourself from being busy, from being distracted? Like, what do you proactively
Yeah,
do?
right. I am the vine, you are the branches. Oh man, the only hope that I have is staying
Mm,
connected to the Father. And I heard it from a friend years ago, uh, Morgan Schneider at Becoming Good Soil, a Ransom Heart. And he said, man, you have to strategically uh, place things that interrupt your day. And so, whether that's getting up and spending time directly in the Word of God, the first thing, so that my day is aligned
mhm.
with the Father, or whether that is listening
Yeah,
to some music that's going to draw me deeper into worship, or whether that's taming my flesh by telling it what to do, by what I eat, and by my exercise, and then what I consume visually, what I
yeah,
watch on TV or my phone, or what I read, and then certainly by those that I align my life with and by who I engage with. And I think one of the greatest
yeah,
things that I do regularly that really helps my focus, and I think a lot of guys miss this, is investing in other men. I think that to fully walk
mm,
surrendered and to fully experience what Christ has for me now, man, I have to take that Great Commission seriously. I have to go and I have to invest and
yeah,
I need to make disciples. And so when I put myself out there in all those ways,
yeah,
it equips me to best be able to come alongside men and women to lead them in their walk in their pursuit of Christ. And I think so many men are
Yeah.
missing out because they aren't taking part in discipleship. And how I sum up discipleship is
Yeah.
following somebody who is following Jesus better than you are, and then teaching others to do the same. And through all those different elements,
Yeah.
man, I just find myself walking consistently in the sweet spot. Now, I'm not saying always. Man, I'm a sinful, broken,
Yeah.
imperfect
Of
man,
course not.
and
Yep.
and I have my faults and I have my failures. Uh, but man, the more that I come to know Jesus, and the more that I come to experience what He has for me, the more I want what He wants for me, and the more I want what He wants for others too.
Yeah. That's great. I fully anticipated you answering the question, with, devotion, quiet
Mm,
time, things like that, which you did. But I love how you added pouring into other people, because it's so true. Like when I have spent time with other people or even trying to pour into my kids, I experience such a high and such a inspiration and excitement and just aliveness that
mm,
comes when I've just poured the Lord into other people and encouraged them in their walk with Him. And
yeah.
so I love how you added that element. You surprised me with that one. That one's good.
Mm,
I'll have to remember that one as well.
yeah.
But on to question 3 for today. You mentioned revolutionizing the church from the inside out. So if anybody visits bloodbrothers.org, they're going to see this blurb. And so I just want to, for this episode here and part of the lifelong adventure, how would you describe revolutionizing the church from the inside out? And could you explain that in further detail so men understand what you're talking
Yeah,
about?
absolutely. It used to be an unwritten vision, pre 2020, pre pandemic, pre craziness, a new level of craziness, that is. It was an unwritten vision that we just kind of had inside, uh, that we recognized that the best way for us to not only battle for a man's heart and for the marriage, was to go directly to the man, but also the best way for us to battle for the church, the bride of Christ, is one man at a time. And so when we say revolutionizing the church from the inside out, largely we recognize that the Western evangelical church, and church as a whole, is really struggling in today's culture and society
Yeah,
uh, to really come alongside not only the hearts of men, but individuals in a way that really speaks uh, their language and leads them to a place of true surrender and to a place of being discipled
yeah,
and discipling others. Now, let me make this clear. I am not at all speaking bad of the bride of Christ, the church.
yeah,
It's an incredible. Uh, I don't even know how to say what it is. It's just this incredible body and part of Christ that we are for. We are the church. We are part of the church. We are
yeah,
for the church. And when I say revolutionize the church from the inside out, I mean coming alongside uh, church leaders
yeah,
and partnering with them to bring out the best aspects of men, so that they can best fight
yeah,
for their marriage, their families, their church, their community,
yeah.
and beyond.
That's so good. And that's actually one of the things that really compelled me to want to invest in Blood Brothers as well, is not just the masculine heart that the Lord has put on my heart to go after and pursue, but also to help the church.
Yeah.
I've been hurt by church things, and I'm sure many people listening have been hurt indirectly or directly by church folks, and the church is in. It's one of those things where it's beautiful, but there's also been some hurt, and so it's how
Mm,
do we encourage and uplift men and to be the leaders and to be the church attendees wherever they're at, whatever church they're attending, to be more on on track with the Lord, more of their heart surrendered and following Him to be that leader and discipler in the body that God's
yeah.
called them to.
Yeah.
So that's been a passion of mine, and excited to be a part of this ministry for that reason.
Yeah.
So
I want to
I
say,
really appreciate that aspect.
yeah, I'd like to say one more thing, about that. At the end of
Yeah,
the day, our church leaders are exhausted, and they
they
are
are,
loving
for sure.
and leading many of them very, very well. Uh, and a lot of times the problem boils down to, uh, men that are spectators and consumers. And God did
Yeah.
not call us to be spectators and consumers.
Yeah.
Yes, we need to consume, Christ, but we also need to
Yeah.
have that go full circle and produce back out. And so when I say revolutionizing the church from the inside
Yeah.
out, man, really coming in from the inside and partnering with men so that, man, it really
Yeah.
significantly increases the ability of the body to accomplish loving God completely.
Yeah. I just had a visual pop in about, the difference between consuming, church and Christianity versus living that adventure that we're talking about is basically the difference between watching a movie or being in the movie, or
Yeah,
watching on the sideline in
yeah,
the stands versus playing the game. And so again, I love how this ministry is calling us out of the stands and onto the field to get into the game and to do our part. And that's when we will get fulfillment. That's when we'll get the peace and the joy and everything that we're truly seeking after,
yeah,
is when we get into the game, walk with the Lord, and let Him lead our lives. So
yeah, man.
love it. All right, Ben, I got one more question for you today. There will be some men probably listening to this that have never, you know, either had a relationship with the Lord or understand, how to begin a relationship with the Lord. Could you just describe, briefly in a way, how can someone that's listening here start that relationship, start that adventure with Jesus Christ?
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's simple. It's not easy, but it's simple. God loves us so much. Loves you, the
Man,
viewer, so much, and a lot of times we have to get sick and tired of being sick and tired of doing things our way. And,
mm,
for so long, men push against giving up control, giving up their
yeah,
ways, their desires, and the things that they want. They think that uh, pursuing or committing to Jesus robs them of that, but in reality, it
yeah,
frees them. And a relationship with Christ gives you freedom, and it brings you fulfillment, and it brings you purpose. And ultimately, man, that's everything that I want and desire as a leader in this ministry, is for everybody I come in contact with to be able to experience a relationship with
yeah,
Jesus Christ. And so, the gospel is simple. The Father sent His one and only Son, Jesus Christ, to pay the penalty for my sin, Eric's sin, and your sin. And all we have
yeah,
to do uh, is say, Jesus, I need you. Uh, Come save me,
yeah,
forgive me, and help me in my walk and my pursuit of you. And if you really believe that in your heart, that's how you begin that relationship. And
yeah,
maybe you just have questions. Maybe you're just kicking tires, and just keep asking, keep pursuing. Ask those around you.
yeah.
Pray, ask the Father to reveal Himself to you. Believe me, He loves you, and He will answer that call.
It's great. I love how simple it is, and it's been an amazing journey. I know for me personally, just once I finally surrendered and gave in, and He just took
Hmm.
over and caused me to want Him, want to pray, want to, the desire just flipped a switch to where now I wanted to pursue Him and love people too.
Yeah,
Like my love for others just went through the roof, and so again, He's ready and willing to, for anybody ready to make that and surrender. So,
yeah, it's good.
well, Ben, thanks again. Great time together chatting with you. Thanks for sharing this about this great adventure that God's calling us to. We're going to break down more elements of this in episodes moving forward about what does it look like to love with all of our heart,
Yeah,
and then all of our mind and all of our strength. And so we're going to break those down in the future episodes. But for those of you that want to stay connected or get connected with us on Blood Brothers, the first thing you can do is go bloodbrothers.org. You can visit our website. We have the Everyman Challenge coming up that we talked about last episode. That's coming up in 2023. So that's probably the best way to engage. I know that's kind of a little far off, but in the meantime, you can engage with us in the Blood Brothers community app. So our website has more details there, and I'll put in our show notes how to do that. But that will be encouragement throughout the year, and a challenge, and to help you live the adventure, and to walk out what we've talked about. And then also you can follow us on Instagram. Blood Brothers is at blood.brothers.official. And we can also Google, or search, I should say, within Facebook. You can just look up Blood Brothers, and we are a nonprofit in Morrow, Ohio. So, with that, thanks again for listening to this episode, and we hope you join us on the next one. Have a great day.